welcome to another episode of Legacy Speaks, y'all. Okay, I definitely told y'all that this year I definitely want to focus on financial tactics, eliminating debt, and all those things that you guys asked me about earlier this year with regards to money management. And so I had to pull into my mental Rolodex and be like, dang, who can I hit up about this information? So here is my friend, my fellow USF Bull, my Broward County brethren, Mr. Will Cyrus. Will, welcome.
What's up? What's cracking like in my peeps? I know that's kind of like old school.
I know.
They don't even use that no more.
Crack-a-lackin', my peeps. Wow. Alright, so Will, please tell the people about your brand and what you do and just how you've been able to influence the culture thus far.
Great question. So, my name is Will Cyrus, as she stated. From Pompano Beach, Florida. Graduated from the University of South Florida. And my brand, it's pretty simple. You know, our tagline is no wealth, grow wealth. And the goal is to influence the black culture, but not only the black culture, but just the impoverished culture and just every culture on the importance of creating and building generational wealth. So it's one thing I tell people all the time. You can have $1 million in your bank account, but you can't retire off $1 million. So from my perspective, you're broke until you have enough to retire on. And that's really what we focus on, is teaching individuals the importance of debt reduction strategies, understanding the importance of knowing how taxes work in your business or in your personal life, how investing works, but most importantly, other tax efficient strategies to help you get to your financial goals.
And I really like that key term, generational wealth, because that's something that our generation or the millennials kind of forget a lot of times. And so how do you define generational wealth, and how do you work with your clients to be able to start thinking about that?
That's a great point. So this is just my humble perspective. I'm sure if you talk to other financial intellects, they may have a difference of opinion. But for me, coming from an impoverished standpoint, generational wealth doesn't start with you creating wealth today. It's how you can transition wealth to 5 legacies down the road. So for me, it starts with one, creating a legacy. What do you want to be remembered by when you die?
Right.
Then most importantly, how do you build something that can last not only in your lifetime, but your kids' kids can be able to appreciate. Your kids' kids can be able to grow and build on top of, to build that family name. So for me, creating generational wealth is just much more than just having a nice car, right? Like, prime example, I drive an Audi, right? That's great, but that Audi won't be around when my kids' kids get, let's just say 3 generations down the road, they're 30, right? So for me, how do I save things that have, in a sense, eternal value? Like stocks, securities, properties. So when I'm thinking about creating generational wealth, it's things that can be passed on throughout the test of time.
Right. And I remember you posted something about working smarter and not harder, and looking towards the future and building that legacy, and not only for your kids, but also leaving a legacy that will impact the culture and impact your communities. And so how have you been able to do that thus far?
So for me, this is just my unique situation. I started early. When I got out of college, I always make this vow to myself, you know, coming from a small city in Pompano Beach, Florida, I guess the same city, to bring it into retrospect, is Kodak Black. Y'all know who Kodak Black is. He came from Pompano. Another rapper, Choo Choo, but most popularly noted is maybe Kodak Black. You know, I always told myself I want to be known as the individual that did something different with himself, and most importantly, his life. So I started early. You know, I started day trading. You know, I started investing. I started learning the whole ins and outs to how the stock market works, what's a stop loss, how to create a stop loss, how to strategically analyze the market so that you can create what we were talking about, generational wealth. And I started doing those things early. And I remember starting off with, like, I believe it was $1,500 bucks. I got it from a refund check, like my last refund check in college. I was at USF. I had $1,500 to my name, and I said, hey, I'm gonna learn this thing called day trading. And I started there, and you know, God's been gracious to me, and I've been building ever since. And now I'm at a point where I can honestly say that I've been creating generational wealth for my kids' kids.
Right. And I really appreciate you talking about using your last refund check. I actually did a video talking about the things that I wish I knew when I was in college. You know, like usually when you get that refund check, you're like, dang, what kind of clothes can I cop?
I was big too. I ain't gonna lie to you.
What kind of clothes I could cop, or trying to see how you can mix and match your hustles. Okay, instead of buying books from the bookstore, how can I buy like cheaper books or whatever the case may be. But nobody ever thinks about flipping their actual refund check. And so what are some tips or some advice that you would give to college students or people within our age range about, you know, utilizing whether it's a refund check from school or their refund check through their taxes?
So for me, I think a very strategic point that every follower of this channel can use is just really, first it really starts with understanding how it works. Because anyone can give you, I can give you $1 million today, but if you don't know wealth, you won't grow that wealth.
Right.
And that's my biggest tagline, know wealth, grow wealth. So it first starts with getting behind the educations of how it works, the general consensus of, okay, if I have $1 million, right, if I want this $1 million to grow to, let's just say 1.2 million, right, how do I do so efficiently? You know, what are some stocks that are on the rise, right? Because the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they invest in the things that are already on the incline. So it's more strategic, in my humble opinion, to find things that are more so on the decline but have an upward trajectory towards appreciation. So a trick that you can use is, I tell people all the time, you get a refund check, right, for $5,000.
Yeah.
Take 1,000 of it, or whether it's a tax return, take at least 20% of that refund and invest it into, at first, maybe a brokerage account, right? So a brokerage account is simply an account that gives you minimal interest, right? Better than leaving it in the bank and growing at 0.01%, you can at least get 1%, right?
Right.
And I like to reverse everything back to growing up in the streets. So, you know, this might not be fitting for your users.
No, go ahead.
But I'm gonna use it anyway.
Yes.
So, okay, say for instance I sold drugs, right? I sold dope, right? And this is gonna translate very well to how the stock market works. So you got a brick, right? A brick is a kilo. If you listen to Migos, all they talk about 17.5, same color t-shirt.
Right.
So you got a brick, 17.5, right? You got a plug. Plug name is Rico Suave. Rico Suave come to you and say, hey, bro, I got this brick going for 17.5. Me as a bearish investor, I believe that that brick is gonna go down to 15,000. So I tell Rico Suave, nah, bro, I feel like you charge me too much. I'm gonna wait a little bit. Rico Suave, man, strike 9, because you don't know, it might go up to 19,000, and then I ain't gonna be able to sell it to you at 17.5.
Yeah.
So I say, all right, yeah, I believe it's gonna go down. So I'm cooling off that, Rico. I'll holler at you next week. Next week comes, the brick goes down to 15,000 as I predicted, right? I go to Rico Suave, let me get that brick. Rico Suave sells it to me for 15 stacks, right? 15 racks. So I take that brick and I flip it, and because I know how to distribute it the right way through the right channels, I turn that 15,000 into, let's just say 22,000, right? So I made a $8,000, $7,000 profit. And it works the same way with the stock market. You can give someone $1,000, right? But because you believe that this stock will go down, you'll wait a little bit, because you don't want to buy that, let's just say 2 cents a share. You believe it'll go down to half a penny. When it goes down to half a penny, you can easily quadruple your money. 4x, 5x, 6x, 10x by just waiting. Now, the downside to waiting is, what if it goes up? If it goes up, you're gonna be kicking yourself because you could have made a profit had you bought it right then and there. So it takes, you know, some guts feelings, like being in the streets, you gambling. It's like shooting dice, right? You know, you win some, you lose some.
Right.
But if you win big. If you lose, if you're strategic about it, you won't lose too much.
Right. There's been a lot of recent changes in terms of like taxes and stuff like that. What does that mean for fellow entrepreneurs and just business professionals in general?
I would say it's more so positive in a sense, because you think about it. Number 45 is an entrepreneur himself, and he's not going to place laws into place that don't attribute to the success of business owners. A business owner is an entrepreneur. So when you look at the tax reform law, and I've looked it over with some of my business partners, my CPAs that I have on my team, and it's been positive for a lot of our clients. Now on the negative side, you do see maybe in the lower income societies, individuals that make, let's just say, $30,000 and less, there could be some adverse, effects to it, depending on who's doing their taxes. And that's why it's so important to have a true tax professional doing your taxes, not some rinky-dink place, your auntie in the hood who work for Primerica, but she do taxes too. Those people don't understand taxes, and they say, oh, the tax reform is the devil. I'm like, no, like, there's ways that you can write stuff off as an individual that's making only 40 grand a year, 20 grand a year. You're afforded the same opportunities. And I tell people all the time, it's as simple as getting a 1099. All you have to do is do some network marketing. It doesn't matter what it is. You don't even have to generate any income. You can write off your mileage, and there's a lot of things that you can write off as a loss.
Right.
And once it comes to your taxes, you can write that stuff off too. And if you get with the right tax professional, they can finesse it in a way without being too much in the gray area to get you the optimal tax return. And I tell everyone, you're afforded that same opportunity.
Right.
There's no law that says that, oh, because you on welfare, you can't get no 1099. And I'm like, but the issue is a lot of people don't have this knowledge. So I think we're all afforded the same opportunities. It's just having the knowledge and knowing where to get those resources from to be able to finesse the tax reform for your benefit. So I tell people all the time, I don't think it's necessarily a bad law. I mean, there are some changes to it, and it does help the richer become richer. However, I'll say this, individuals that make, let's just say, less than 100, you can fully utilize that bill to your greatest benefit, in my humble perspective.
And it's all about educating yourself instead of going with the he say, she say, or what the news is saying. That way you can better advocate for yourself when you're going to these tax offices. Because a lot of times I find, or even in the past, I would go and file my taxes, and then later on I would talk to another professional. It's just like, girl, you could have written off those exams that you paid for. You could have written off, the mileage in between jobs, or whatever the case may be. Or, oh yeah, you just started this new blog. All right, these are the expenses that you could have written off. And so a lot of times we overlook those things, or we don't keep the receipts for those purchases. So if you ever have any specific purchase or anything like that, keep like a journal or a Google Excel sheet of all the things that you're purchasing throughout the year. That way when it's time for tax season, you're not scrambling or missing out on that money.
That's true.
All right, so one thing that I really am focusing on this year is about pairing business with mental health. So talking to fellow thought leaders, entrepreneurs, prospective business owners about the mindset that it takes to have success within their specific industry, and also trying to see the underlying thought process and how they are catering to their mental health. And so can you speak on your journey and how you were able to kind of reframe the way that you view money?
That's a great point, great question. So for me, in my individual situation, I just attacked my market with a different perspective. And I think a lot of time, in entrepreneurship, in business, we try to be like other people. And for me, that's the biggest signal for destruction in your business. So for me, I had to really take a really deep evaluation of myself, my strengths, my weaknesses, and I just went totally on my strengths. I know that I'm a people person. I know that I can connect well in business rooms. I can make things shake. Let me focus on those strengths. And I think a lot of times we feel as though like, hey, I have to blow up on Instagram or Facebook before I can reach the ultimate success in my business. And no, dude, that's not the case. Now, if you were selling weave, that might be the case. Now, you got to kind of blow up, on social media and Instagram if you want to sell weave, right? Absolutely, I get it. You said you got an online boutique, absolutely, I get it. But for most entrepreneurs, you do not need to blow up through social media. All you have to do, this is just my individual story. I got on my grind and I started hustling. It's as simple as that. Like Rick Ross said, every day I'm hustling. I got up 6 a.m. and I made things shake.
Right.
I went to those business meetings and I heard a lot of no's. Because in entrepreneurships, you will hear 1,000 no's before you hear that one yes. And that one yes could change your life. And for me in my situation, I got a yes. I got someone that believed in me, my vision, they saw my work ethic, and they believed in me and they invested in me. and I took what they invested in me and I 50-folded it. So for me, I just tell entrepreneurs, just if you got a vision from God, and it has to be from God, if you want it to be plentiful and fruitful, if your vision comes from God and it's been instilled in you to do something in the world that's great for His glory, it will happen. You don't have to chase other people's successes, what they're doing on social media. Just be you. Use the gifts and talents that God has given you, and it will work. Like, it has to work. And you have to understand too that success is subjective to what you value the most. If you value money, you'll never understand success because you're thinking that success has to come in the form of a paycheck. To me, success is impact and life change. So if I'm not seeing those two things, then I'm not successful. So what my business, this is just me. You know, you can choose to think how you think, but for me, when I see clients come out of a meeting say, hey, you know what, this is life changing. Like, I can change the direction of my family trajectory and tree. That makes me feel good inside, knowing that I've done something to change a life, to sow a seed that can potentially grow and blossom into an oak tree. So that's just me.
And that goes back to the topic of legacy. Like I said, you're not just only focused on, you know, building generational wealth within your family and your kids and so on and so forth, but you're building generational wealth with the people that you're coming in contact with. How are you influencing the culture? How are you influencing the people around you? How are you, like you said, planting that seed? That way they can go ahead and plant other seeds in other people. It's a ripple effect. It's definitely a ripple effect. When it comes to mental health and finances, I think it's extremely important to highlight these issues because money is one of the #1 triggers within our society. We're either stressing about debt, whether it's student loan debt, credit card debt, or we're stressing about, you know, money management. That causes a lot of anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and whatnot. And so can you speak to any personal experiences that you personally had with regards to trying to reframe the way that you look at money and how you utilize it as a tool rather than, you know, the sole source of your happiness? And how have you been able to break that mindset among your clients as well?
So something that I really focus on with not only myself but with my clients is helping them to understand the true value of money. You know, the value of money is not, and this is just how I teach my clients, it's not about what you can buy, but it's more so about what you can save towards the future. And it all starts with changing their perspective on what the future looks like. Because if you can't see your future, then you can't see your destiny. And if you can't see your destiny, you'll never get to where God needs you to be from a legacy standpoint, from a generational standpoint. So when I'm sitting out with my clients, it's helping them to have a generational perspective as opposed to a future perspective. Because a lot of us, you know, in the future, I see myself making 6 figures, 7 figures. That's great. But when you get there, then what? And so with my clients, I'm constantly trying to reframe their minds on what is that then what. Once we can figure out that then what, and I can get into a place where they can create a vision and a plan for themselves and their future so that we can save money efficiently. So that every dollar that you spend, it has a purpose behind it. Okay, I got $1, right? I know 20 cents is going to my retirement. 15 cents is probably going towards my legacy. However you frame it in your individual situation. Once the individual starts to look at money and value it that way, I think that they can create a better future for themselves.
You gotta preach, okay? And that's one thing that I really love about your brand is because not only are you coming from a financial perspective, but you also come from a spiritual perspective as well. And like, what's your mantra, ghetto gospel?
Yeah, so that's another thing on my tagline that I have. Something that's like really near and dear to my heart. Growing up in the hood in Pompano Beach, Florida, I saw a lot of things growing up. You know, from prostitution to, you know, little kids walking outside with no shoes on, crack needles on the ground, people shooting up, smoking crack. And that's always been my heart to bring the gospel to those areas that in a lot of places around America, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Pompano Beach, Chicago, no matter where it's at, those people are forgotten. So my biggest heart is, with my wealth and with my resources, is to go back into those places and really just raise up, my people. Whether it's from a wealth perspective, a spiritual perspective, or just an overall life-changing perspective. So when I say ghetto gospel, it's just more so bringing the good news to the ghetto, because the good news isn't always brought to those places. And that's just really the mantra, just really the heart behind that tagline.
Right. And definitely going into communities and looking at people from a holistic perspective, because oftentimes we live in a society where it's just like, okay, well, if Will can make it, then how come so-and-so can't make it, And also recognizing that there's different barriers that keeps different people behind, whether it's past trauma. Granted, you saw a lot of things growing up that, motivated you to be better, but Joe Blow right next to you saw the same things, and that caused them to have some type of psychological trauma, and that kind of held them back. So also recognizing that different things affect different people, and I'm really glad that you are taking the skills and the gifts that God has given you to just lift up your people. So I think that's hella dope. Well, Will, thank you so much for giving the ghetto gospel to the viewers of Legacy Speaks. I appreciate it. Won't he do it? Yes, he will. Won't he will he won't, okay? So tell the people how they can find you, Will.
Oh, you can call on Tyrone. My bad.
Call him.
But you can reach me either by email, and my email is financials with an S, that's plural, BY-Cyrus, like Miley Cyrus, CYRUS, so financialsbycyrus @gmail.com. Also, you can reach me on Instagram at Cyrus, CYRUS _financials. Financials is plural with an S. You can reach me there, reach me by email, or you can reach me on LinkedIn. And my name on LinkedIn is Will, W-I-L-L, Cyrus, C-Y-R-U-S. If you ever want to reach out to me, if you had any questions, send me an email, and I try my best to respond back to you within 72 hours.
And if you weren't able to catch it, I'll provide that all in the description box below. If you're in the Dallas area, please be sure to hit him up, because he's definitely, like I said, making moves out there, moving in his little Audi, and changed up.
Adisha. Her name Adisha.
No, that is too pompano. For real, that is too pompano.
What's wrong with Adisha?
No,
I just put I-S-H-A on it. No, not even the I. Audi already, it ends with an I. I should put S-H-A.
Okay.
And she foreign.
Ooh.
So Adisha foreign. Like, what's wrong with Adisha? She black? It's a black girl?
The logic behind this is crazy.
Y'all feel me though.
Thank you. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to stay connected via Legacy SBKS on everything. Until next time.
Peace.
Hey.